what is the most practical thing we could do. It's basically figuring out what do we need the most, like what's the best way to use our labor. So right now, I think lots of people are doing things that are very specific, and there's a bunch of different projects, and they're all kind of, I mean, most of them are kind of aimed at end users. And to me, that is kind of a bad idea, because each of these complete projects comes with a lot of risk to it. So, you know, if we build 10 projects, you know, it's not necessarily the case that any one of them is going to attract lots of people. But I think we can do something that's a lot more useful. Like I think we can build things that make it easier to build more things. So we can build like capital goods, like things for other entrepreneurs. So what we should want is to get to a point where you can just imagine anything on Bitcoin, and then you just immediately create it, so that there's no work in creating any idea. And then, and we can do that over time, because we can build little pieces that fit together. So someone who knows how to use them can build lots of ideas. So instead of building a few complete ideas now, what we should be doing is getting to a point later where everybody can make 100 different ideas a day really easily.
Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, MetaNet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we have Daniel Krawitz joining us again. Hello, Daniel. How have you been doing?
Hey, Brittany. Thanks for having me. And yeah, overall, I've been doing very good. Glad to be back on to give you an update about what I've been doing.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear it. So yeah, we were just talking a second ago about how everybody seemed to really like the video that I did recently with oh gosh, now their names are going to slip my mind.
Stephen and Derek. They're
yes.
They're two of my partners now. So originally, well, earlier I was involved in starting a company called Matterpool, but that wasn't working out. So I started a new company with them called the Proof of Work Company, and I'm still working on the Proof of Work upvote system. And we're going to get it working, and pretty soon you'll actually be able to try it out.
That sounds awesome. So it begs the question, you know, the first time you came on and we did the interview the first time, you gave me like the crash course in Bitcoin. And towards the end of that video, you had mentioned that you had wanted to create an upvote system. Is that what you're trying to do with Derek and Stephen right now?
Yeah, so that's the same idea. So okay, well, great. I guess I didn't go over that last time. So yeah, you and I have done one video together, and then you also have done a video with my partners, and they basically explain the idea to you. But let's go over it again. Well, go over it my way, because I'll explain it a little differently. So basically, well, there's a problem we have right now with collectively discerning truth. So right now, I think truth seekers are isolated individuals, and we don't have a very good process for communicating the truth that they discover to the world, or to everybody. And what we have now is a state where there's relatively few people who understand what's going on, and then most of the people are conned, and they're in some kind of a dream, kind of like the Matrix. And And the problem, as I see it, has to do with information bottlenecks. So there are these hubs. Well, and at the point of these hubs, the information can be controlled, it can be stopped, it can be censored. And if that happens, then the information is not transmitted to everybody. So the way that everybody gets information right now, I don't mean the way that anybody gets information, but the way that we get information out to everybody is by going through one of these hubs. And they could be like Twitter, or one of these other social networks, or it could be the government. And the key feature of these information hubs that makes them a problem is that people don't have a very good way of connecting to each other by not going through the hubs. And the hubs provide services that have to do with knowing who you're talking to. Like on Twitter, that the Twitter identity is a consistent, ongoing. It corresponds to a real identity. Of course, there is a problem where two Twitter identities could correspond to the same real identity. So you can have Sybil attacks on Twitter, but Twitter is providing a kind of identity service to people. And if you try to go outside of Twitter, then it's hard to find people again. So when these information hubs compete, they make it difficult because people have to do the work of finding each other. So if one of the information hubs gets taken over and starts manipulating people, starts putting people in the matrix, they have trouble escaping, because there's work to rebuild their own networks. And so now, people are trying to combat this problem by creating these free speech social networks, but ultimately they don't really solve the problem, because they don't change the fact that there's a lot of benefit that is to be gained by getting people into these walled gardens and then controlling what they see. And so I would say that the old social networks are more competitive than the new free speech social networks, because they're maximizing benefit, whereas the free speech networks are not. Well, that's basically our problem. We have a problem collectively arriving at the truth, because there's all this interference in our networks because of these hubs. So what I'm doing is a way around that problem that does not end up creating a new information hub. What it does is it gives people a way to communicate reliably with one another, where we don't need the identity service that Twitter is providing anymore, and there's an economic incentive for people to tell each other the truth without. Well, it's all on Bitcoin. So ultimately, if somebody does try to use this if somebody does try to use this maliciously, it is possible to find that person and punish them for that. But it's like the identity is not it's not part of the Bitcoin service, although it does exist. It can be discovered. But I think the economic incentives of the proof of work upvote system make it so that the punishment, the ability to punish people for being bad is not. It's like a fallback. It's not the main reason why it works. So are you familiar with Richard Dawkins?
No, I'm not. No.
Okay. Well, Richard Dawkins is an important biologist. and he wrote a famous book called The Selfish Gene. And the basic idea of this book is that the gene should be seen as the should be seen as the fundamental unit of competition in biology. So in other words, in biology, people are familiar with the idea that different animals of the same species compete with one another for mates and resources and so on.
Right.
But what Richard Dawkins said is that the gene is really a more fundamental type of competition. So instead of thinking of individual animals in competition with one another, what you should think about is a gene pool that has different versions of the same gene floating around in it. And those are the alleles. And so the competition is really between these alleles, and each individual animal is it's an assortment of these alleles. And it's part of a group. For each kind of gene it has, it's part of the group of the other animals that share the same gene. And so Richard Dawkins also said that he coined the term meme. You know memes, right? We talk about that all the time. He coined that term because he said that the ideas in our minds are replicators like genes. And so the theory of competition, the game theory that goes along with social evolution, can be applied to ideas as well as to genes. So he came up with this term, the meme, because it sounds like gene, and but really it just means idea, and it evokes the concept that these ideas are replicators like genes, and they are in competition with one another. So your mind is like your DNA, and each of your ideas is in competition with other ideas out in the brain space.
And I suppose that brings us
world.
Right. And so I suppose that brings us into this mindscape of like, how do we stop bad ideas from replicating, and how do we get the good ideas pushed to the forefront?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I think that the problem we have now is that bad ideas do better than good ideas, at least in the short term. So what we have now is somebody promotes a scam, and they're good at spreading the idea, and then someone who explains why it's a scam is not good at spreading his idea, because the anti-scam artist, his way of thinking requires people to oppose their own emotions, because the scam artist uses emotional manipulation, and that works well in the short term. And the anti-scammer, he has to tell people to, stop being emotional for a bit and think rationally about this for a while, and think long term about it, because a lot of these scams, they're like addiction, so they have some kind of short term benefit, but then in the long term they're bad for you.
Right.
So what happens is the bad idea spreads all over the place, and lots of people get hurt, and then it's only after that, after people have experience with it, that there starts to get significant pushback, and people start to see what's wrong with the idea. And that's just too destructive. Well, so look at what happened in Bitcoin.
Right.
So
I was just going to say,
BTC
if we had
is
this,
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if they had proof of work on the upvote system in our Bitcoin, they couldn't have promoted the BTC idea as easily. Of course, they had moderation on there too, so they can control what gets said. They can turn off anybody who says something wrong. But a proof of work upvote system would have made it a lot more difficult. And we also had a big problem with this around the world because we had the COVID-19 vaccines, and well, you know, lots of people just didn't understand that those are dangerous, and they believed, you know, they believed that COVID-19 was a dangerous disease, and they believed that the vaccine was going to help them, when really it's a lot worse than the disease, and it's killing lots of people, and we haven't seen the end of it.
Right. Well, I know that
so-
you've been in Bitcoin for a really long time. You coined the term hyper Bitcoinization. So you were already forward thinking way back in the beginning. And so it begs the question, if we had this amazing upvote system prior to all of the bad things that ended up happening to BTC, then the gold narrative and all of this other stuff wouldn't have come about. So I guess my next question to you would be, why or what was the reason, or did you have the idea, or what was the reason why we couldn't get this sooner, so that it feels like if we had this, we could have prevented a lot of the malicious things that had happened since then, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I think would have happened. I think we could have had things a lot better. Of course, we will see how well it works when we actually get to try it. I mean, it's hard to say beforehand just how you know, how strong these economic incentives are going to be, but certainly I think if people had understood this, they we would have an edge. I mean, that's what I would think. But I haven't finished explaining why the idea works yet, because I just explained the problem.
Right.
So now here's why it works. Now there's another idea in biology that comes from Zahavi called the handicap principle, which has to do with the very problem that I was just talking about. So what Zahavi was trying to explain was why is animal communication often costly? And so the classic example of this, I mean, the most obvious way that this is true is with sexual displays. So the classic example is the peacock's tail. Why is it good for the male to grow this tail when clearly I think it's fairly obvious that he would be better at surviving without the tail. He would be
Less of a predator, less prone to predatory forces.
Yeah, he'd be better at escaping predators, and he would be better at absorbing food, because he wouldn't, you know, he could be fatter. So why is that? And Zahavi has many examples that are not related to sex. There's also well, there's communication between predator and prey and predator. He argues that the same principle is involved. So what Zahavi said is that the only honest signal of fitness is a handicap, and a handicap is provable waste. So in other words, you know that I'm fit if I throw stuff away in front of you, and you can see that I'm wasting resources, and then you would conclude that there's more where that came from.
Okay.
If I can throw stuff away easily, you would conclude that I have a lot left. Now this isn't 100% accurate. It's on average true. So the person who can waste the most resources is not necessarily the best one. Rather, people who cannot waste resources are people you don't need to pay attention to. So
doesn't that kind of imply, I'm sorry to cut you off, but doesn't that kind of imply that people with less resources don't have as good of ideas as people with more resources?
Yes. Yeah. I think it has more to do with who can replenish what they have. Because you can start out with a lot, but yeah, I think you have to be able to spend it continuously. So you need to be able to replenish it. So I think it has more to do with income than with net worth. But yeah, basically. And so what Zahavi said is that the there are too many males for the female to evaluate all of them. So the female doesn't have enough time to go through every single male and figure out which one is the best. So there needs to be a process that allows her to reject most of the males down to a reasonable number, down to an amount that she can actually afford to put in the time of looking at them carefully. And if there's 1,000 males and the female has time to look at 10 of them, like, it doesn't really work very well if it's like 10 random males, because she's not going to find the best one at that rate. You know, that way won't work. So there needs to be a way of rejecting all of the males down to a reasonable number, such that the remainder is likely to have somebody really good in it. In other words, so the remainder may also have bad guys in it, but the point is, you get a remainder, you get a small number out of a big number, and the one you want is going to be somewhere among that group, probably. And Zahavi said that that's how the tail works. And the tail, so a handicap, which is provable waste, the thing that's good about that is that it's easy to evaluate. So if you're the peahen, you can look at these tails and you can work through them really quickly. They don't take you much time to figure out which ones are not good enough. And then you don't have to look at the rest of the male. You see what I mean? So you look at the tail first, and then if it's good enough, then the male gets a second round of evaluation, and then you give him your full attention. That's the idea. And well, you know, when I try to explain this idea to people, one of the things they always say is, you can boost a lie. Well, so that's why I explained it like that. We're not saying that the top boosted item is good. What we're saying is you're going to read down what you have time for, and somewhere there's going to be something good. And it takes a lot less time to find it than if you try to read everything on the internet every day.
Well, and then the other thing that I would think about is that if people are going to spend the time to promote a lie or boost a lie, then they are also spending, they're doing their own proof of work. So, I mean, it's interesting, and I totally love the idea. The only thing that I may have a disagreement with is that people who may not have as much income to dispose of, not having as good of ideas as people who have, you know, so many resources that they're capable of, you know, tossing things away to prove that, you know, they have the best idea, I guess. Well,
my answer to that is that proof of work is additive, and it's about the idea, not about the person. So if you have 1 million poor people versus a small number of rich people, if the poor people all agree, they can boost the same thing a little bit, and it all adds together. So if people don't have much resources, they can still boost what they have to the top. They just have to work together.
Right. I guess I'm looking at it at a more fundamental level, because I get what you're saying, and you're saying like people that are going to be in Bitcoin or promoting ideas like this in the first place, they're going to have disposable resources to promote good ideas, and those are going to be boosted up towards the top. Whereas, I'm looking at this from a different perspective and saying, well, a guy on the street who may not have the same economic advantages as an individual who was given legs up in this world, and I'm not, he may have just as good ideas, but just may not have the same economic advantages as another person to help promote those ideas. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I think that it's really about the benefit of the reader, not the benefit of the talker. So when these costly symbols or these costly signals, when they evolve, the losers, well, the winners are all the females and the top males, and the losers are the bottom males. So I think you have to think about if you're a reader of the platform, then you're like the female, because you're evaluating ideas and you're saying who gets to reproduce in my brain. You know what I mean? So I think you have to think of it from the female's perspective here. And that's really how everybody benefits, is they get better information. And being able to promote information is not what this is about. It's about getting good information. So are you familiar with the concept of hypergamy?
No.
Okay. Well, go check out some of the Manosphere channels on YouTube to learn about it. But hypergamy means that women want the top men. They're not attracted to the bottom men. So women like to they can move up in their social class when they get married, but men can't usually. Well, and women want to do that. That's what hypergamy means. Means that women are attracted to men with higher income, men who are greater than them. And so like you in this platform that I'm talking about, if you're the reader, you're like the hypergamous women, and you get the best ideas.
Well, I mean, it could be the same for the other way around. Women may be more attracted to a man because of wealth or status or whatnot, but men are also going to, in a mating sense, reject females based off of looks. So there's like a give and take there too, where it's like it can just as easily be flipped around. But I guess in the idea sense, it's irrelevant.
Yeah, right. There's men and women like different things. Yeah. No, I wasn't making some kind of general statement about male and female relationships. That was just about females.
Right.
And basically all, virtually all females of every animal species are like this. There's a few where there's like reversed gender roles, like the seahorse, and the reason for that is that the males have a pouch and they raise the babies after the female releases the eggs. So it's like the males have their own uterus, and that changes the incentives a little bit. But for the most part, like what the females are trying to do is find the best male and reject the less fit males as efficiently as possible. So to me, like if you're saying like somebody in a lower income bracket doesn't get to boost ideas as easily, good. That's what we want. And once again, it's not really about the person, it's about the idea. So I think that there is a lot of opportunity for people without much money to use the platform. It's just that they have to work together. I think that people have to think about like what benefits, what's good for everybody when you upvote content. so I think that like the idea of trying to make it about a class war and saying like it's going to be poor versus rich, I think we don't really have to worry about that anymore with this platform. I think right now we have to worry about factionalization, but I don't think we have to worry about it as much when we use proof of work. And so the reason that proof of work was originally proposed as an anti-spam system is that a spammer has to be able to make many identical messages, and it has to be okay if only 1 out of 1,000 people or something like that respond to these messages. So he annoys 1,000 people to get one person scammed. But if he has to do proof of work individually on each message in order to send it, in order for it to be read, then this idea doesn't work anymore, because you're not going to make up that cost from 1 out of 1,000 people who get scammed. And if you do, all other people need to do is increase their proof of work requirement in their email inboxes. So the way this would work is your software evaluates the proof of work on your email, and it automatically deletes it if it doesn't have enough. So you don't even look at it. So it's just like the female rejecting the male without thinking about anything else. And then you do read the ones that meet the requirement. So with an upvote system, we've got something that is a little bit different, since everybody sees the same messages. Like if you boost content, it gets higher up on the list and more people see it. But now there's competition between the different elements in the list. So ultimately, you have to increase the proof of work if you want lots of people to see your message. And the end result is similar to what happens with the spam artist or the spammer, is that he just doesn't send his message. It's just his scam isn't good anymore. And so if you want to send a message, you have to actually write something that's good for the other person to read it, or else you're just not going to make up your cost. And so the way that I think people will use this kind of platform optimally is they will think about what do other people not know? Like, what would make a better society if people understood? What do you know that would make a better society if everybody understood it? You see what I mean? And that should be worth some cost to you to upvote it for the benefit that you eventually get back from living in a better society. And
well, I can see the benefit in the BSB community, because I believe you've mentioned before that we have this labor shortage, and so there's a limited number of supplies and like developers, workers, and such to be able to get good ideas going. And so if we have a method of being able to tell which ideas are the best, then we can work on those to utilize our resources within this community in a more effective way.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's sort of the first way that I would want to use this system. So what we have in Bitcoin is a system where everybody benefits if anybody is successful, as long as you're invested in the coin, and well, not everybody wants to invest in the coin, but if you do, then you benefit when anybody does well. So I think that's a lot better. That's why I think investing in the coin is a good idea, because I think it's good to be open to everybody's benefit, because eventually somebody's gonna win with Bitcoin, right? Somebody's gonna win big. So
But how do we promote?
you want to be there when it happens.
How do we promote a platform like this to be utilized more when we're already dealing with a user shortage, so to speak?
Well, I mean, I, I don't think we need to promote it. Like, to me, like, I've had a really big problem explaining it to people and getting them to understand it. But to me, like, the benefit of having a group of kind-hearted people who are all thinking about how to protect each other, that should be enough. And if that's not what you want, don't join it. I mean, to me, like, if there's just if we just had a few people using it, that would make me feel a lot better. I mean, that's sure what I want. What I want is to have be in communication with other people who are thinking about, who are thinking about how to prevent me from making a mistake. That's how I would use the platform. And I think there isn't really any point in using it yourself if that's not what you want to do. So to me, if we just got a few people using this, that would be fine with me. That would be a really big benefit to me. And I'm not really concerned with trying to get massive adoption for it. And certainly what I've seen is that the majority of people don't understand it when I explain it to them. But I think that once people can try it out, they'll be able to understand the benefit a lot better, because I think it will be fairly obvious relatively quickly that you get better information from reading this platform than from other places.
Well, how do you think it competes with Twitch right now? Because in a sense, it feels like that Twitch kind of has the same basic principle where ideas or thoughts or opinions that are like the most kind of get pushed towards the top. Does that make sense?
Well, no, I don't think it competes with Twitch. I mean, what I would want is for it to be integrated with Twitch. So right now, Twitch doesn't have an upvote system. So when they add one, they should add this one.
Right.
And,
I'm just saying, like, with the proof of work, somebody posts something, and then if it's liked, whatever the post is liked by a lot of different individuals, there's going to be more tweets or more branches, more.
But that's
likes.
That's likes. That's tips. That's not an upvote system. So that the tipping can be payments can be faked. So I could say, like, let's I can like my own post on Twitch, and some of that money eventually, some of that goes to Twitch, so I don't get all of it back, but like the cost to liking a Twitch isn't obvious. And of course, if Twitch wanted to promote something, and make it appear that they weren't doing that, they could just give me the money back. Who would know? That wouldn't be obvious right away. And in general, that's the problem with trying to mix upvotes and payments, and with tips. So is that you have something that isn't provable waste, which is what a handicap is. And a handicap is the only honest signal of fitness, not a payment. So, of course, a payment can be a handicap. So, often when men and women go on dates, the man buys the woman drinks or buys her dinner or something. So in that case, that she knows that it is not she knows that it's real, because she gets the benefit. She knows she's not paying him back. But if somebody else was watching, they might say, like, maybe she's paying him back under the table. You know what I mean? What we need is something where everybody knows that the cost was borne, not just the person who received it. You know what I mean? So as I was saying earlier, we would also want to display Twitches on the site that I'm making. So what I'm doing with my website, which is going to be at pow.co, is we're going to try to display everything that people want to boost. So that's not necessarily something that we make that could be anything on Bitcoin. So we're going to try to just look at what people use, like what are they interested in, and just give them the option to boost that and try to display it to them on the website as best we can. So it's not a walled garden. It's going to be a combination of everything, and everybody else is going to benefit by incorporating this into their platform as well. I mean, we don't really benefit by trying to build more walled gardens, which is my other criticism of Twitch. So they're the coolest and most interesting thing being done on Bitcoin, but they're still trying to build a walled garden, and that shows that they are they're not invested enough in Bitcoin. Because if they just wanted to buy lots of Bitcoin, then they wouldn't care if somebody could easily compete with Twitch. In fact, they would want to make it easy. They would want to make it so that anybody could make an alternative Twitch service. Then that would make their Bitcoins better. But they're not doing that, so that shows that they're not invested correctly. But we all benefit by making things interoperable with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So there shouldn't be social networks on Bitcoin. There's just the Bitcoin social network. That's the only thing that makes any sense. And ultimately, that's what's going to win out once people actually try to build it. And of course, there are people doing this. There's block.post, so that's an example of what they're doing with that site is they're explicitly making all of the protocols open source and easy to replicate. So the idea is not to make something that that's difficult to compete with. It's to make something that's easy to compete with, and that's also what I've done. So everything about the protocol that I made for this, which is called Boost POW, that can be implemented by somebody else, and any Bitcoin mining pool can provide the proof of work. So I've made it easy for people to compete with this idea. It's not something that only I can do.
So I got a question. I'm going to lose it if I don't say it here soon, but that is, so I really like the idea of it being interoperable, and I could see like Twitch getting in there and saying, hey, we want to integrate this because it's a great idea. Forward thinking, though, I think of like a smaller company that also utilizes Twitch, Genuine Retweets. So let's say Twitch comes in there and they adopt boost.pow into the network, and they start utilizing it. They also, Genuine Retweets also utilizes Twitter and Twitch tweets. So what's to stopping it in the future from having another company come in like Genuine Retweets and then being able to boost upvotes and whatnot? Does that make sense? Am I?
Well, there's nothing stopping them. That would be great. I mean, if I would want to, what the PowCo website is open source. So you can find it on our GitHub, and you can give us pull requests. So that would make things a lot easier. Like if you did something on Bitcoin and you wanted it to be displayed on pow.co, you could just show us how to do it. You could give us the code for that. That would be a lot better. We would like that a lot. And so, basically whatever people are interested in, we would want it all together. That to me, like, that's what you want. If you have a proof of work upvote system, you just want everything. You want to see everything that everybody is upvoting, and that tells you everything that people are thinking about, and that's kind of what you want to know. So
Okay, so basically what you're saying is, if Genuine Retweets did come in there and help the upvote system, assuming Twitch integrates this with if they did integrate it into their system, it would actually be a good thing, because it's just if somebody wants to boost something and they were utilizing Genuine Retweets to help that boost, then they're just showing the proof of work and putting out the signal that they have expendable resources. So their idea must be good, or
yeah. Well,
Okay.
so the idea of genuine retweets is that they go back to this identity idea again. So what we have in most of these social networks is something that's kind of like democracy, where there's like one man, one vote, right? So that's not what I like. And of course you can exploit it because you can have lots of different identities. They're not really figuring out on Reddit or on Twitter or on anything, any of these things, like how many of these social network identities corresponds to one person. So there's no election integrity on these platforms, right? Um, and so genuine retweets, their idea is to it's like trying to bring election integrity to the social networks. So they're trying to say who is a real person, how many of these retweets correspond to some physical human who clicked on the heart button one time, or this thing, and to me that's not a very good idea. That's really not something that we need. And I think if we just use proof of work, then there's an incentive to provide your identity. So I don't think we have to check people's identities anymore. I think people will just provide their identities. And it doesn't really do any good to have try to do a Sybil attack with proof of work, because all you can do is divide the resources that you already have between all your different fake identities. So you can have one strong identity, or you can have a bunch of different weak identities, and it doesn't really make any difference. You know what I mean? Like really, like there just isn't. You just don't really need to worry about identity that much when we're using the proof of work system, because there's an economic incentive to tell people what they need to know anyway. And once again, I'm not saying that we don't want to have the ability to figure out who is saying what, and in the case that we need to. I'm not saying that anonymity is good, but I'm saying that's just finding people's identity isn't a big part of this system. I just don't think we need it that much. And if somebody posts something like, I'm gonna come over to your house and kill you or something, well, yeah, then let's figure out who that person is, so that we can assess that threat. But other than things like that, I don't think we need identity. I think people will just tell us who they are, and they won't lie about it anymore. An investment in Bitcoin is an investment in the other people. So I think a big part of being invested in other people is telling them how not to kill themselves, which is a big problem that we've had in the world recently. So that's also how I would want to use the platform. But yeah, to me, like you're thinking about like what is the most practical thing we could do, it's basically figuring out what do we need the most, like what's the best way to use our labor. So right now I think lots of people are doing things that are very specific, and there's a bunch of different projects, and they're all kind of, most of them are kind of aimed at end users, and to me that is kind of a bad idea, because each of these complete projects comes with a lot of risk to it. So, if we build 10 projects, it's not necessarily the case that any one of them is going to attract lots of people. But I think we can do something that's a lot more useful. Like I think we can build things that make it easier to build more things. So we can build like capital goods, like things for other entrepreneurs. So what we should want is to get to a point where you can just imagine anything on Bitcoin, and then you just immediately create it, so that there's no work in creating any idea. And then, and we can do that over time, because we can build little pieces that fit together. So someone who knows how to use them can build lots of ideas. So instead of building a few complete ideas now, what we should be doing is getting to a point later where everybody can make 100 different ideas a day really easily. And I don't think there's many people aiming towards that right now, but really like that's better for everybody to do that sort of thing. And that's kind of what BoostPow is. It's just a piece of something bigger. It's an upvote system, and it doesn't say what we're talking about. It's just for upvoting anything. So anybody can use it for anything. And I mean, to me, that's kind of like, as far as like economic growth is concerned, it's kind of more useful than anything anybody else is doing. Because it's like something that we can use to figure out what we should all be working on right now. So I mean, there's lots of patents from Craig Wright that are out there if you search for them, but I don't know who has actually read through all of them. But it's kind of a big job just kind of figuring out what is like a long-term idea and what's a short-term idea. Like what's something that we could start using right away. You know what I mean? I think that's some work that we could do with a proof of work upvote platform. What we could end up is a comprehensive understanding of Craig Wright's output without having to each go through all of those things individually. You see what I mean?
Yeah. It kind of, the thing that I was thinking about while you were speaking was Stephen, I believe it was Stephen in the video that I did with him and Derek, he made a comment that he was not interested in people explaining things or promoting ideas to people who aren't already involved in Bitcoin or who already didn't own Bitcoin. And to me, I'm sitting here thinking, man, this is a great system for anybody that's already in Bitcoin. And I can see the utilization on cross platforms, being interoperable with other platforms, and this becoming a really great thing. But to me, like I was saying, we have a lack of users. And so I know you said, hey, if we have just a couple of people utilizing this and it's helping kind of get the bad ideas out, so to speak. I just feel like it could be utilized at a much greater capacity if we had more users to promote more ideas and thus help further along add value to the network. But without the users, we're not being able to create more value to the network. And so my next thought is, well, don't we need to bring in more users? But according to like Stephen, the answer would be no.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a really good point from Stephen, and I agree with him. And the reason is really simple. Like, if you think Bitcoin is good money, then what you want is to earn more Bitcoin. And so where do you get it from? From the people who already have Bitcoin. So, I mean, I think that people who don't want to be new users are missing out. You know, I think it's their loss. You know what I mean? This is kind of like attracting new people is kind of like starting a relationship, because you want people to be part of the new economy. And so I mean, I think what's attractive is kind of just like what's attractive for a relationship in real life, and that's confidence. And you know, let me point out something else. A user is not necessarily adding value to the network. You're only adding value if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're earning Bitcoins. Or I should say, if you have the capacity to hold savings, then you're adding value. And whatever you're doing that gives you the ability to have savings, that's what's adding value. And if you can have savings, you're bidding up the price, but that's not the same as adding value. But if you can sustainably keep savings, then you must be doing something to add value. And you would do that by having a career, or building new businesses, or something like that. But somebody who is just a user of Bitcoin is not adding value. Now, we do need people, we need lots of transactions. Okay, we need transaction volume, because that's how the mining pools make money ultimately, and they need to make money, or else the system fails. So we need to have people who are like customers of the network, who are not necessarily people who are earning Bitcoins, but they are people who are, who want enough Bitcoins that they can pay for transaction processing. Okay, we do need those people, but they're not adding value to the network by doing that. The people who are adding value are the ones who are working for Bitcoin, and who are able to make it easier for the other Bitcoiners. You know what I mean? So like if somebody wants to do some of my work for me in exchange for Bitcoin, that's somebody who's adding value to the network. But someone who's just a user, that's not necessarily what they're doing. So what I'm interested in is attracting people who are going to work for Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Who want to be part of the new economy. And I think that this is just like when people say, like, if you want to get a girlfriend, you have to get your own life in order first, because she's gonna look at your life, and she's not going to be interested in it unless it's already, unless it already looks like something that's going to make her better off. You know what I mean? So I think the way that we attract people is by growing the economy, and we do that by serving each other, not by paying so much attention to people outside. The people who are against Bitcoin, that's another matter. So like this is another thing that I've talked about for a long time, but people haven't really taken seriously very much. So I've always said that different monies are in a negative sum competition with one another, which means that when we have two different monies, that's worse than having one money. And the best money is the one that everybody else uses.
It's not an inward struggle so much as it is against fiat currencies, or even other proto monies, I guess, as you would call them, other cryptocurrencies and things of that nature.
Well, I think the best way to fight fiat currencies is to allow governments to issue central bank digital currencies on Bitcoin as tokens. And so I think Craig Wright's strategy is very good there, to just say that we're not really competing with them, and we're just offering governments a service. So competing with the altcoins, that's different. I mean, I guess you could say, like, well, we're going to do Ethereum as a token on BSV. We could do that eventually, maybe. But I think that the difference is about economic growth. So all of those other coins, they're all based on pie in the sky imagination. But speaking of attracting people, like the best way to be attractive is to have a good economy. So right now the economy outside of Bitcoin is in the dumps. So we got to make a good economy for ourselves, and then that's what's attractive. And so instead of thinking about like paying your bills in Bitcoin, so think about what you can offer people for Bitcoin, like what people who already are interested in Bitcoin. Just that's kind of what money is for. You have to think about what you can offer people, and it's about empathy, right? It's about imagining what it is people want, what you can do better than everybody else. And if you think Bitcoin is good, then then that's what you want. And the way that you're going to get it is by thinking about the people who already have it, not about the people who don't have it. So, just don't worry about those guys. Think about what people who have Bitcoin need and how you can offer it to them. And that's what will grow the economy. And that's what will ultimately be attractive to people. Because then what we're going to see is like the rest of the world is in the dumps and all of the Bitcoiners are doing a lot better. The point when people will be able to pay, for a basic, whatever kind of need is the point when somebody who provides that kind of need starts to think that Bitcoin is better money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it shouldn't be about specific things. It's about what can we offer each other. So it should just be about what you have, what you can offer that other people in Bitcoin can't. And that's how we build an economy.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot to think about, Daniel. It's all in there swimming around, but I'm definitely excited to see what happens with the Boost. What Boost.co?
Pow.co.
Pow.co. Yeah, I know I went on there and I took a look after the Steven and Derek video, and it looks interesting. I'm definitely curious to see like what other platforms within BSV like Twitch, if they begin utilizing it. Have you guys actually had any talks with them yet about it, or is it still kind of like, oh, we're just working on our end, and when we're ready, we'll hopefully they'll just come to us and want it because it's so good?
Well, I don't know. Steven has been talking with those guys. I don't know what's going on with that. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, if they don't want it, then they're going to be uncompetitive. So to me, that somebody's going to want it, and they're the ones who are going to win. I think we. So anyway, right now the website is it's kind of it's an experimental version, and we're gonna have a better version coming out eventually. I'm not sure when that's going to happen because I'm working on the back end, but I'll let you know when we have something that's a little more fun to use. But I don't really have anything else right now. Do you have any last questions?
No, I think we covered everything. Like I said, I'm really excited to see where this takes us. I think it's going to add a lot of value to the network. I'm excited to hear that it's actually in the works now, because a year ago you were still trying to find people. So I'm glad that you found somebody like Steven and Derek to help get this up and going, because they seem like they're really on the ball and kind of on the same mindset and playing field as you. So I'm really excited to see what happens with it.
Yes, they've been great to work with, and things are moving along. So I think we'll actually have something we can use pretty soon.
Fantastic. Well, did you have any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
Just remember that proof of work is it's the sexual signal for memes.
The sexual signal for memes.
If an idea doesn't have enough proof of work, then it doesn't get to reproduce.
Well, Daniel, I really appreciate you coming on the show and chit-chatting with me today. I appreciate your patience with all of my novice questions here, but I can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing a bit about Pow.co. And I guess that being said, it's going to wrap everything up for us today, guys. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallet, blockchain, stablecoins, Metanet, the evolution of money. Everybody is talking about Bitcoin today, but what exactly is it? Learn the basics from experts. Learn what Bitcoin is, how it works, and why it matters. Bitcoin 101, your ultimate guide to the fundamentals of blockchain.
Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. Share this video with a friend, and also follow us on Twitter at BrittanyBits.